I think that was a really exciting show of the new headquarters of Scb 10x in Metaverse. And to make it even more interesting, we have invited the people who directly participated in the process of design, build, and promote this new headquarters in the Metaverse. So please join me to welcome the panelists of this session. All right, welcome everyone. So for the audience that didn't get to see us in the backstage, everyone was super nervous. So no pressure to all of you. We have like, I don't know, like hundreds of people watching us right now. So no pressure, just be yourself, right? Relax. All right. Rather than having me introduce everyone, I would rather have everyone introduce themselves because they have been instrumental in coming up and executing this idea of Scb 10x headquarters in the metaverse. So let's start with Kun Pik.
Hi, my name is Pik Prapasi Kunakitatikan. I was the architect, and now I am the metaverse architect of this headquarter. I'm happy to be here.
That has such a good ring, you know, like metaverse architect, like compared to my title, like blockchain technical advisor, make it sound so boring. Anyway, everyone is important somehow. All right, next up, Ali.
Hi, I'm Aliyah, Sutikorn P or Ali for short. I'm a game designer, and for this project, I am the metaverse designer. I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, welcome. And then next up, we have Phi.
Hi, I'm Phi from venture building team at Scb 10x.
All right, and lastly, we have Joe. Channel.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm a senior software engineer from venture building team.
Right. So you can see from the panelists that we have, you know, from both the from the creative side, man, I can't even speak after lunch. From the creative side, right, we have like the two designers and we have the business side, Kunfi, and then we also have the software side as well. So we're going to touch on the process of designing this headquarters in metaverse from, you know, from the very beginning, inception of the ideas, all the way to the implementation and execution and utilizing this new headquarters in the sandbox metaverse in a business sense. So that's very exciting. Before we go on further though, today we have heard so many definitions of what a metaverse is. So just to, from our perspective of this team, I would like to hear what is your definition of metaverse, Kun Pik and Kun Phai.
All right. I think that is a very tough question to come up with a definition of something that is very new, like the metaverse. Right now, like people are still debating on like what really is metaverse, but from what I have researched and experienced and working with the metaverse itself, I think the two most important things that is required in order to be the metaverse is the immersive experience, and another one is the connectivity. Yeah, that would be from me.
All right. Five.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was such a great definition. I think in terms of business, metaverse means the whole new opportunity, because metaverse is basically a parallel world to the new world. So any business in real world can do a business in the metaverse as well.
Mm-hmm. That's such a very succinct and very good definition. A definition of metaverse, right? It's like this new ecosystem, economy that we all can actually benefit from. That's cool. So next up, why start with building a headquarters? What is it about having this like physical representation of something that makes it appealing to you? Why don't we start with, for example, a DeFi project? Like, why do we start with something so big and physical in the metaverse? Let's go with Kun Jok.
Okay. We want to be a leader in both investment and venture building of the metaverse. So we're building our headquarters in metaverse in one of the way to communicate to our investor and the public that we are committed to serve the community. We also want to be innovative trendsetter. This will help us attract more digital talents. And another reason, this is a good beginning for us to learn and explore about the metaverse. And in this session, you will know for more detail about what we do and learn in this project from our building team.
Mm-hmm. So that's really good. Throughout today, we have heard people talk about how metaverses could help connect us more with the communities, and have these more meaningful online interactions with other people. And from business standpoint, I totally agree with Kun Chanon entirely. Being able to connect with the communities, being able to connect with future talents would be a designing factor between successful businesses and unsuccessful businesses. So yeah, totally agree with you. All right, so let's just go back to the headquarters that we have seen just now. That was guided by Kuntai. Like, that was so cool. So the concept of bringing these people from the physical world into the metaverse through this like connected space of past, present, and future is such a cool idea. Can you tell me a little bit more about the inspiration and maybe the process and the challenges that you have met throughout this entire ordeal of creating this new headquarters in the metaverse? So let's start with Pickup.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
And I understand that you have some visual cue for us as well, right?
Yes, I have the visual cue as well. All right. So the inspiration actually coming from our intention of we want to transitioning people from the physical world and then to something new like the metaverse. And so first we decided to start from something like we know and to stick to that reality. And in the first land, this is the first land, we call it a solid foundation, which is the past. We look back at the past and think, where do we as Scb 10x originated from? And the first thing that came into our mind was Scb, the first branch of Scb, the Latinoid, here on the left side of the picture. And then we also wanted to include a market and the scene of floating market in that is very iconic as Bangkok used to be. So as you may have heard that Bangkok used to be called as like the Venice of the East. So that's what we show it on the right-hand side. And so another place that is like one of the oldest areas of Bangkok is the Chinatown or Yawarat. It is full of shops and activities, and in the past, it was a huge commercial area, and it still is today. So the reason why we decided to pick this comes from like the most personal way. This is a place we usually go out after work, late night at work. When we don't know where to find like late night food, we would go to Yawarat. And also, there is a little bit more personal reason behind this, which is this is a place we feel connected most to our ancestors who are Chinese immigrant as well. Moving to the next land, which is the present land. This land, we call it the gateway to never-ending networking. We think of this as a place of what is happening right now. What we want it to happen in this land is a place where people can actually hang out and talk through ideas, coming up with new ideas. And this is where we want to host big events and as well as town hall event as well. And then here's how it looks like. And move to our final land. This is the place we feel like we are stepping away from reality the most. There are also many iterations that we first came up with. And if you look at this, you realize that there's land on it. But we think maybe we should just make the building float and take away all the lands and make the platform to connect to the building itself. And that's where the design of this coming from. And during the process, we also faced some challenges along the way, which Ali can actually fill us in on this.
Yes. So since we're working with a new program and a new workflow, it took us some time to figure things out. Like some of the initial designs we didn't translate well when we put it into Sandbox because we are more used to working in a more realistic style, but the Sandbox is voxels, which is basically a little box of pixels in 3D. So we had to go back and forth with our designs. As you can see here, on the left-hand side, we have our Rhino environment where we did our planning. And by the time it went to Sandbox, it had to go through some iterations for it to fit. On a similar note, the scale of design is quite different when you are looking from the overworld into like from top down as contrast to when you're actually in the world. Because in Sandbox, the scale of a human is quite different from normal human being, as an avatar is 2 meters tall by 80 centimeters wide, which is not very realistic as all. So we had to adjust our scaling of objects and items inside from a real life size to a Sandbox adjusted size.
Yeah. I think maybe I can actually add on some of the challenges we face. Ali have talked about the difficulty in like on like the technical side, but let me talk about on the new work style. So in designing metaverse required a multidisciplinary team. So our main team consisted of me as an architect, Ali, a game designer, and we also have another member who her name is Mink. She's the event designer and software engineer, as well as a business analyst. In that sense, we have to place our trust in our teammates that they actually know what they are doing, and their points is as valid as ours. And so that is sometimes like from Ali point, like she would think of something that never have come across my mind. Yeah. And there's also another story, which I am not so sure if it's considered as a challenge or not. So during last week, that was the launch of the Alpha 2. And during that time, it was so popular. I think Sandbox probably like underestimate that. And so that system crashed. And three of us were like, maybe let's take a day off and just go have some fun and and have some great night of sleep. And yeah, that turned out to be a very good night because I didn't really have to think about, oh, I didn't finish the work that I planned to. Well, I couldn't anyway. Yeah, so that was all the challenges that I think, we faced.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Maybe the sandbox has some kind of AI detection to, make sure you guys don't burn out during the design process. It's kind of like, all right, they have worked hard. Let's just have them have, a good night of sleep or something. Yeah, but that's super cool. And this reflects a lot of what we have heard from the speakers from this morning, right? It takes a lot of new skills for a project to be successful in the metaverse. And you might need designers, you might need software engineers, you might need like risk management system because this new technology could just like go offline for a little bit and then come back. It's a lot of skills to be working together. So having a team of capable and reliable people is crucial for a successful project. And that's why we created the headquarters to begin with, because the team wants this to be a new space of collaboration of like trusted and capable people, right? Or a place to come and learn and hang out and absorb ideas from creators like you guys, right? So that's super exciting. Tell us a little bit more about your journey in transitioning from, because you two design things in like what we call the meat space, right? If you're into crypto Twitter, you two design things in the meat space before. And for those of you who are new to the metaverse, that's the physical world. So the two of you design things in the physical world before you jumped into this metaverse design. Like, what tools do you wish you have, and how has that process been like?
I think like the most obvious thing that we realize is that the physical limitation is gone. Like the law of physics, all my structure and construction courses knowledge just completely out of the picture. So back when I started architecture school, my professor always said like, where did you put your column? Or how is your building is going to stand? And that mindset has been embedded into my conscience for like more than 10 years. And now it's like I have to relearn everything again. But it doesn't mean that everything is like actually limitless, because we also replace like those like physical limitation with the software limitation itself. And also designing and building something in physical world, we have to think about like the permanence of what we build. Like what we'll build will stand for like more than 50 years. And that's how long, like pretty much how long the material will last without like the big renovation. And once the building is designed, we can't just knock it down if we didn't want it. But here we realize it's a great opportunity for us to test our design with an actual person, not like the digital simulation. And with that, so like we can actually change. We can actually change like our design if we just don't like it or something that it doesn't work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ellie?
So I feel that in the metaverse, as Vic has said, a lot of limitations have been removed completely. And one such limitation that I found it was interesting to work with is the limitations of how things are connected, because you don't need to consider about like if you want to reach from one level to the next one, you don't have to consider how long your run of the stairs needs to be, or like you can always build an elevating platform within the metaverse, or like you'll even teleport from one area to another. So the limitation has changed from what is physically possible to what you want to design. So even though like some areas you would like to stick to reality, but some things you can just do whatever you want. Also, a new thing was that when you're designing in the metaverse, you're not just designing a building, you're more like designing a stage with a story to be told, and you need to convey that story through objects you put in there. For example, like old dilapidated objects will give you a more spooky and foreboding atmosphere. Like even small details like cobwebs will add to that emotion you're building. In that sense, you are more like a movie set builder than an interior designer. I feel like game designers are very used to this aspect of design. And another thing you need to consider is that you cannot wait for people to come into your building to populate it. You will have to place those people yourself. When you're designing metaverse, people are also an object that you could use to convey your story. Like non-player characters will give like context clues on what an area is and will help convey that story as well. Like for example, if you're able to see a group of characters just walking around, you know that this place is a place for exploration. If you know that if you see a group of characters like trading with each other, you know that this place is a place of commerce and such like that. Mm-hmm. As for the tools we wish to have, the process is quite similar, but also very different in the sense that it's still 3D modeling, right? But it's within the sandbox, which is voxel. So it has a very specialized tool that you would need to use to bring your creation into the sandbox. For the team usually works with programs like Rhino and Maya. People you would know what that is because they're very industry standard. But because they're industry standard, the tools they have are incredibly extensive and allows for users to script their own tool. And having something like that in the future, if we work with Sandbox, would also be great.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is really encouraging. So on the one hand, the designers are liberated from the old constraints, right? You don't even need to have this like square room anymore. You can actually have all the shapes. This reminds me of I'm going to go off script again, which I always do. I visited Frank Gehry's like concert hall, and it was like this like weird shape, like Frank Gehry, it's just kind of like all over the place. And the tour guy was talking about how difficult it is for him to actually create that shape in a physical world, like because there's no brick that comes in a curvy shape, right? But in the metaverse, this limitation is just kind of gone. So that's just kind of fascinating. So this would probably free the architects or designers from creating, to let them create whatever they want. And what Ali said is also fascinating, because in the past we think of architectures and designers as designing physical spaces. But in the metaverse, not only do they have to design the physical spaces, they have to design the experiences that go in it as well, and how those experiences are interconnected. And at the same time, they can design the flow of that experience. Because typically when you design a building, you just say, oh, the information desk will go over here. We will hire someone to sit here and tell people where to go, right? So you see immediately that the act of designing that space and the act of hiring this information person and train that person is disjointed, right? Probably by two different group of people. But in the metaverse, you can actually design all of that at the same time. So for artists, this is probably super exciting because you get to enact and execute your idea in a more like holistic manner, right? Because you get to design things from end to end, and that's just super cool. Now I wish I was doing something more creative, but in any case, how about you compare and contrast, in addition to what I just babbled out, the design philosophy between what you can see in the physical world architecture and the metaverse? a little bit. Maybe Vic could take this one.
Yeah. Well, this question actually reminds, like what you just said earlier, actually reminds me of what Walter Benjamin once wrote, that architecture is consumed by a collectively in a state of distraction. The distraction in architecture comes in 5 senses. Like the first one is sight, what we see. And the second one is audio, like what we hear. The texture, like what we actually feel on the surface. And the smell, how we actually smell that. And the temperature itself. So when I was the architect, I was trained to think about every single aspect of this. But here, like in the metaverse, everything is narrowed down to just visual and audio, and mostly visual. So when we actually design things, we have to think about where people can go inside of our experience. Because right now, since like the limitation of the gravity, it's gone. Like in some platform, people can actually fly through. So you are able to see something from like the bird eye views, which like normally in physical world, it's impossible, almost impossible, unless you are on the plane or the drone, because those are the view of the bird. But right now, like, no, like that is actually possible for us, like to be able to design something from the top view for our user as well. Yeah.
That's super cool. Because I used to be a firefighter, so I know all like the dirty corners of the building. You know how they hide the HVAC compressors on top of like tall building. So in the metaverse, you can't do that anymore. I guess you wouldn't be.
We don't have HVAC anyway.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like you don't need a fire exit, so you don't have to hide it anyway. So, but that's just cool. Like you need to think about designing things in like 360, right? Because you can't just hide things anymore. People will zoom in and zoom out to find it. And we also saw this in gaming as well. People just zoom in super close to something just to see the details of the design. Oh my God. I think we should have like a separate session on just nerding out on design differences between the physical world and the metaverse. But because we don't have much time, we have to focus our next questions on the business side of the metaverse headquarters a little bit. So thank you, Big and Ali, for the discussion on the design aspect of the headquarters. Let's jump onto the business side a little bit. So please welcome back Phai and Kun Jo. Right, while we wait for them. So of course, by building headquarters in the metaverse, it obviously need to have some business use cases, right? Otherwise, it would just be a cool art project. And that would make the metaverse no difference than any other like 3D art project at all. So let's jump back to the business side of the headquarters a little bit. So from your point of view, Phai, what are the use cases of the headquarters in the metaverse, whether it's the social, business, or the financial aspect of the metaverse? And ultimately, you know, Scb 10x being a subsidiary of a bank, like how do banks benefit from participating in this metaverse technology?
Oh, wow. There are a lot of mini questions in that one question. I'll try my best to go through each one of them. Social aspects, our virtual headquarters can be a place for everyone to hang out, for example, you know, even though it's a bank or anything. And by everyone, I really mean everyone, users, customers, builders, developers, designers, or even passers-by in the metaverse. Again, any kind of social interaction in the real world can happen in metaverse too, some probably with even better experience. For business, we are already seeing talk of the town use cases such as Adidas and Nike setting up virtual storefronts, not to mention Gucci's art installation on Roblox, Louis Vuitton's NFT games, Balenciaga's outfits for Fortnite, Coca-Cola's wearable NFT, even McDonald's has hinted that they are coming into the metaverse. So I'm going to stop here because the list goes on. Regarding financial side, I think I'll answer this one together with the last questions on how banks benefit from participating in the metaverse. The same way that financial institutions is the foundation of businesses in the real world, banks can be an important piece for business in metaverse, providing both traditional financial services and the so-called DeFi, such as lending and staking, at the very least. Being one of the early participants allow us to grow with the space. It gives us new user acquisition channel, new business models, new services, and again, the list just goes on.
Yes, that's cool. I totally agree with you. Like, if you didn't stop then, I would have gotten so hungry from all the restaurants coming into the metaverse. Yeah, lots of business opportunities, which bring us to the people who are building new projects, right? So the VB team, venture builder team of Scb 10x has created so many cool projects in the past. From a builder perspective, Kunjo, how can a metaverse shape the experience of finding, founding, and running a team of builders in the future? Oh, this would be Kun5, sorry.
Well, I can answer that.
Or you can answer the Kunjo, it doesn't matter. All right, Kun5. Yeah.
All right, I'll go first then. Well, I think metaverse takes globalization to the next level. Well, elevated by the travel restrictions from the pandemic, team member can now work from anywhere, making international team more than possible. Metaverse gives a team of builders both places and tools to collaborate in the most efficient and fascinating fashion. In venture building, collaboration is key. Immersive experience is important angle, but metaverse is also about taking human coordination in online world to the next level. Metaverse with Web3 concept of ownership, programmability, and interoperability, I can never pronounce that word, will allow people to collaborate better with assets they own and imagination that they can put into code. At Scb 10x specifically, our venture building team has tested and established a system where we efficiently test the idea. Fail fast and succeed faster is our model. Metaverse has allowed us to study users' pain point more easily, collaborate more productively, and build and launch fast and pivot even faster.
And that's super cool. Like the concept of, because Pig was talking about this a little bit just now as well. The concept of being able to design something, test it out with user in real time, and then reiterate and improve upon it almost immediately, right? Not only from the programming standpoint, but also from the design standpoint as well. And that's what makes metaverse so interesting. So with the metaverse being such a new field, Kunjo, what kind of new job opportunities do you think the metaverse can create in the future? Like, if I'm interested in the metaverse, like, and I'm looking for a job, let's say, like, what kind of job can I be expecting to be coming out of this new field of exploration?
Okay. I think there are a lot of jobs in the metaverse, but there are three groups of the job opportunity. First are the job inside the metaverse, like a teacher, salesperson, trainer, or any job that need to interact with other people. For example, a teacher, they may have a private classroom and use it to teach their students inside the metaverse. The second one are the metaverse builder. Absolutely, if we want to build anything in metaverse, we must have a builder team like an architect, designer, or maybe software engineer if you would like to create a specific metaverse platform. And the last one is metaverse consulting, like a planner, event organizer, or business developer who understand about how to build the business in metaverse. If we want to build metaverse, it's not just only building. We should focus on what we will do to support our business. There are a lot of experience in metaverse that we can create for customer So that's why these jobs are more important. At the Scb 10x, we also have a plan to create a metaverse solution that we can plan, design, build, and including develop the another element of metaverse technology like VR, AR, blockchain, NFT, or Web3. We have a lot of partners that would like to jump into the metaverse. So it would be great if we can help and support them by using our solution.
And yeah, absolutely. And I see this as a natural evolution from what we have seen in the online space, right? So back before the internet, you have the designer for the physical space, and then you have the event organizer for the physical space. And then, like Web2 happened, COVID happened, and now we are doing a bunch of online conferences all the time. And we start seeing event organizers that cater specifically to online conferences. Like they don't even do physical conferences anymore. They only do like online conferences because online activities have its own set of challenges as well, and their own set of skills that these event organizers have to bring to the table in order for an event to be successful. So in the metaverse, I totally agree with Kujo here that we will see these new opportunities coming up because after all, like organizing an event or in a metaverse cannot be the same kind of experience as Web2 online conferences, like we have discussed before, right? There's a new kind of interaction that happens. There's a new angle of design that needs to happen for an event to be successful, right? So with that in mind, I want to bring back Pick and Alley for more questions because it's so interesting when we start gelling the business side and the design side together because there's a lot of things that can be done. So event organizer, can we bring back the other two designers, please? See, and this would be something that never happened in the physical world at all, right? In a physical space, I could just be like, hey, the other two speakers, can you please come back on the stage, right? I can do that myself. But in Web2, obviously I cannot do that because, I'm not like the one organizing the whole online logistics thing. So I actually have to appeal to the event organizer, which is the one orchestrating everything over here. So that just goes to show the kind of new skills that people have to bring. And that's only to Web2 event, right? In the metaverse, it will be even more challenging than this because, and this is going to be the next question to you, Pick, right? You can see that in Web2, we have more interaction we have different kinds of interactions compared to physical space. You can basically click like, you can basically comment with the audience, you can take live questions from thousands of audience at the same time. So in the metaverse, you also have new users interaction with your platform as well. So how has that new kind of interaction influenced your design philosophy when it comes to designing things in the metaverse?
All right.
So how about I give you?
Do you mind
some
rephrasing? Do you mind rephrasing your questions?
So you have new user experience. You have new kind of interaction with your platform in the metaverse, right? For example, you can have thousands of people interacting with this same physical space at the same time. It's like how do you take that limitation into account when you design space? Like what do you do if you have 200 people wanting to come to Scb 10x headquarters at the same time?
Wow. I think one thing we actually have to consider is the sandbox limitation as well. That's one thing that I think it would be the limitation. But if like 200 people would like to come to our space, I don't know. I'm not so sure, but I don't have like the answer to that. Like maybe Ali, can you help me?
Yeah, so one of the things that, it's different, that is that you can approach our headquarters from anywhere as long as you have internet connection and a computer, right? Also, when we're designing for an event space, when you're in Sandbox, there's no like masses, like you can go through each other, so we don't have to always prepare for like cramming in everyone in a small space. If we want to, we could widen up the space for the more intake of people, or we can like close them down. It's depending on what we want. It's in our control now, and it's not like we only have a one room event area, so we have to do with what we can do. But we are in control, therefore we can do whatever you want. We can like have a small space and have everyone like just clipping in and out of each other, or to like pretend that you're in this you're the only one interacting, or we could like show off like how massive we are by having a bit larger space so that you can see everyone in attending.
And this underlines the thing that we talked about earlier, because from business standpoint, like Kunfai and Kunjo, they probably want millions of people to come. They'll be like, I'm so happy millions of people show up to use our platform. But from design standpoint, you'll be like, oh my God, how do I fit 1 million people into this tiny room that I designed? Right. So that goes to show that, you know, if you want your business to be successful in the metaverse, there are a lot of coordination involved, and it's just, you can't just separate the design part from the business part anymore. It kind of had to be right next to each other right from the beginning, right? And that's what makes, to me anyway, the designing things in the metaverse so exciting. You have more control, you have less limitation, but then you also have new kinds of limitation that you never thought of existing before. Like you said earlier, like the sandbox just kind of crashed. Well, on like very busy day. And that was a really busy day for them. So no fault on their part. But that just goes to show that, you know, in this new kind of business, there's a lot more planning and skills that you have to, you know, get more involved. And Ali, being an experienced designer, what do you think the new kind of interactions and experiences that we talked about, like how can you plan, what is your plan for enhancing user experience in this new headquarters? Like what can we do that we couldn't do before?
As I said earlier, you can access it from anywhere. As also like you can transform the space as much as you want, as fast as, you know, you can create stuff. There is no more limitations of, oh wait, we have to build this building. There's going to be 2 months, 3 months for active construction to work. As soon as the 3D person could make it, upload it, you immediately, boom, you have the thing that you want, right? And for the user experience, for a lot of people, it's a very exciting experience to go into like a space that is completely made up, that your like imagination is your limit in that space. So it's like the anticipation of what you're gonna see, or what you can, what new experience that you can get from that area, as well as like I think you can dream of becoming whatever you want. Like you're not limited by your physical body anymore. You can create your own avatar. You can like become your dream, basically.
Yeah, I think I can add on that point as well, like with the avatar. Like for example, like you can design anything like on your face. Like you can be anything that you want. Like right now, maybe I don't like my nose. Like I can just alter my nose on my avatar. That would be one thing. And also I can design my own clothes as well. Like and that would like enhance like user experience, because they're not bound by what they actually have. But right now, like everything is limitless. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that one. Anything to add from the business side? Like what kind of new interaction do you expect users to use in the metaverse compared to, you know, traditional Web 2 business? Kyle, good job.
I like to jump in, but not necessarily that question. I've been so excited since, for the last few questions, because like even though we're talking about limitations and like design challenges and everything, as a from the business side, it's just so fascinating. It's so exciting because there's so many opportunities. There's so many things that can go on. And like as Kuntanwa said earlier about the event on Web2, it's not really like 100%, almost like half-heartedly. Imagine like there are a lot of things that you cannot do today that you can do in let's say our next event could be on Metaverse. And I don't know, an audience could come and tap on your shoulder or like high five, get your autograph, and like dress like steal your outfit. There's so many things, and I cannot answer that questions. I think this is where we need people to tell us. This is where, as a venture building team, we pride ourselves in having users as our kind of guru, or like people who tell us what they need. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, and for those of you who are listening, we see some questions about how to enjoy this new headquarters that we have just shown you. Well, keep in touch with us at Scb10x_official on Twitter, or just follow any of the links that you watch this video on, just to see what we are up to, because we will open it up to the public eventually, right? And that's super exciting. All right. As for today's, we're running out of time with the panelists, so thank you all for joining us, and I would like to welcome you back in for the next event when we talk about our next headquarters, maybe. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.